the world was immersed in a somber reality, where the brightness of the sun had faded among dense clouds of pollution, and the air had become a poison eroding the lungs. Environmental devastation had left its indelible mark, turning lush forests into arid deserts and crystalline rivers into dry, dusty beds. The cities, once bustling and full of life, were now mere shadows of their former grandeur, with rusted skyscrapers and deserted streets filled with despair and chaos. In this desolate world, groups of survivors emerged, including Maya and Lucas. Maya, a brave and determined young woman, had lost her family during the tumultuous years of the great environmental catastrophe. Lucas, an ingenious engineer, had seen his world crumble along with the pillars of civilization. Together, they led a small group of survivors, each with their own stories of loss and hope. Amid the desolation and despair, a rumor sparked a glimmer of hope in the hearts of the survivors: the existence of the Green Dome, a legendary refuge where nature still flourished and the air was pure and fresh. For some, it was just a fairy tale, an unattainable fantasy in a world on the brink of collapse. But for Maya and her group, it was the last chance to find a place where they could start anew. However, not everyone was convinced to embark on this dangerous quest. Some feared the unknown, preferring to cling to the relative safety of their makeshift settlements. Others were skeptical of the rumor, believing the Green Dome was just a lure to draw the gullible into the trap of disillusionment. Despite the doubts and dangers lurking around every corner, Maya and Lucas decided to press on. With hearts full of determination and hope as their only compass, they set out into the unknown in search of the legendary Green Dome. They meticulously prepared the little they had for the upcoming journey, although their meager provisions barely sufficed to fuel the hope driving them forward. With a small group of survivors, they headed south, where murmurs of hope and the promise of a safe haven began to take shape. They would move along the desolate roads on bicycles, trying to collect food and supply themselves with water through a portable filter. The first days of the journey were marked by a mix of hope and challenges. With the sun rising on the horizon, the small group of survivors set out on the road, pedaling with determination along the deserted, dust-covered highways. As they traveled, they periodically stopped to search every corner and crevice for scarce resources of forgotten fruit on a withered tree, a stagnant water source that could be purified with their portable filter. Each discovery was met with gratitude and celebration, a small triumph in a world where survival was a constant battle. However, not everything was easy. Their legs burned from the effort of pedaling kilometers under the scorching sun, and the nights brought a piercing cold that reminded them of the fragility of their existence. At every corner, the shadow of the unknown lingered, the fear of what they might find beyond the next horizon. As they pedaled along a dusty road, they spotted a column of smoke rising in the distance, a grim omen of danger in an already inhospitable world. Cautiously, they approached the source of the smoke, finding a small settlement in ruins, consumed by the flames of desperation and chaos. From the shadows emerged menacing figures with wild eyes and improvised weapons in their trembling hands. They were looters, being stripped of all humanity by necessity and fear, willing to do anything to ensure their own survival in a world that had lost all compassion. Maya stepped forward with determination, her steady gaze bravely challenging the looters. She tried to negotiate with them, offering the little they had in exchange for safe passage, but her words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the roar of desperation. The situation became tense, however. The group refused to yield to fear, holding their ground with courage and determination. Finally, after tough negotiations, they managed to persuade the looters to let them pass, though not without leaving a bitter taste of warning in the air. Just a few minutes after leaving the ruins, the group watched with growing unease as a drone, attracted by the smoke rising from the ruined settlement, sped swiftly toward the area. Its propellers spun with determination, cutting through the air with a monotonous hum as it approached with unsettling precision. Worried glances were exchanged among the group members, aware that the presence of the drone could attract more trouble or even alert other dangers in the area. They continued their march, having already traveled for several days since the start of their journey. Fatigue was beginning to take its toll on their exhausted bodies, and the need to rest was becoming increasingly urgent. They decided to stop for a couple of days in a small abandoned town to regain their energy and recover their strength. The empty houses and deserted streets offered a temporary refuge, away from the constant threat of looters and watchful drones. However, food supplies were scarce, as they had given up much of their provisions during the encounter with the group of looters, and now they had to rely on their ingenuity and survival skills to find what was necessary to survive in this inhospitable place. On the second day of their stay in the abandoned town, the group spotted another drone soaring through the sky with its ominous presence. Tension filled the air when, shortly after, the sound of gunfire echoed in the distance. Instinctively, they took further cover in the shelter, fearful of what might be happening outside. However, the pressing need for water forced them to leave their precarious hideout and resume their journey the next day, with their senses alert and hearts full of uncertainty. As they moved forward, they remained vigilant, aware of the dangers lurking in every shadow. They avoided the main routes, seeking less traveled paths to minimize the risk of encountering new unknown threats. According to the information they had, they were still far from reaching the Green Dome, which was nestled in a valley between mountains, a destination that seemed increasingly unattainable as they pressed on. The refuge where they were staying represented the last vestige of civilization on their long journey to the valley, a resting point before embarking on the final trek to their destination. With each step they took, the group clung to the hope of finding a safe place amidst the desolation, not knowing what challenges awaited them on their way to the Green Dome. The following days of travel were exhausting and filled with challenges. As they pedaled through desolate and arid paths, the barren landscape stretched out before them, constantly reminding them of the devastation that had consumed the world. They filtered water from a nearby lake, hoping to find some relief for their thirst, although the concern about the scarcity of food weighed heavily on their hearts. Hunting had become an arduous task, as nature had lost much of its splendor and wildlife was scarce. Even so, they managed to catch some birds, whose meat provided a small relief to their empty stomachs. The desolate landscape surrounding them was a constant reminder of the magnitude of the environmental catastrophe they had faced. Where there were once lush forests and green meadows, now only barren and arid lands remained. The green foliage that once adorned the landscape had disappeared, leaving behind a bleak and desolate panorama. With each passing day, the concern about running out of food increased. Despite their efforts to find resources in the desolate landscape, they knew their time was running out. They still had at least another 2 or 3 days of travel before reaching their destination, and every moment was crucial in their struggle for survival. With the weight of worry on their shoulders, the group stopped by the roadside, sadly contemplating their exhausted companion, Marco, and his partner, Elena, who also showed signs of fatigue. The desolation of the landscape mirrored the despair that enveloped them as they faced a difficult decision. After a brief discussion marked by anguish and uncertainty, they made a painful but necessary decision. With words of encouragement and promises to return soon with help, they bid farewell to Marco and Elena, leaving them to rest in the inhospitable landscape while they continued their journey into the unknown. With heavy hearts and hope as their only guide, the group moved on, praying to find help before it was too late for their exhausted friends. The next day, as they prepared to resume their journey, the distant buzzing of drones alerted them. Instinctively, the group hid among the underbrush, wary of the presence of these flying machines. The memories of gunshots they had heard near the drones in previous days only fueled their fear. They nervously watched the drones fly in the direction they were heading, and although it caused them fear and uncertainty, they knew they had no choice but to continue. In the distance, the imposing silhouettes of the mountains began to take shape on the horizon, bringing a glimmer of hope amidst the desolation. The group felt a renewed sense of determination as they glimpsed their final destination. With renewed spirits, they continued their journey with firm steps toward the heights that promised safety in life. However, their progress was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected sound, the distant roar of a vehicle approaching along the route. With the memory of previous dangerous encounters still fresh in their minds, the group hurried to hide once again among the underbrush, watching cautiously as a military truck loudly passed by the road they had been following. Uncertainty gripped them as they debated what to do. Should they stop the vehicle and seek help, or avoid any interaction that could jeopardize their mission? Ultimately, they chose caution and decided to avoid contact, preferring to remain anonymous and continue their journey towards the Green Dome. With their hearts pounding in their chests and uncertainty as their eternal companion, the group moved forward, knowing that each step brought them a little closer to their desired destination. With each pedal stroke, the group laboriously ascended the steep slopes, leading them towards the valley rising beyond the mountains. Fatigue seized their already exhausted bodies, turning every movement into a test of endurance and determination. As they progressed, the desire to catch a glimpse of what lay beyond the mountains grew stronger, fueling their spirits with the promise of a safe haven and a fresh start. Yet, these kilometers were the toughest they had faced thus far. The relentless incline and rugged terrain forced them to dismount their bikes and continue on foot, with the weight of exhaustion and uncertainty on their shoulders. Every step reminded them of the magnitude of their challenge, but also fanned the flame of hope burning within them. Despite the weariness that engulfed them, the group clung to the determination to reach their final destination. With each step, they drew closer to the valley that stretched beyond the mountains. They begin to see vegetation as the valley comes into view, and it seems the rumors were true. They even start to see scattered structures amidst the lush vegetation, signs of life and civilization that contrast with the desolate landscape they left behind. A wave of excitement and hope overwhelms them as they behold the promise of a new home, a refuge where they could rebuild their lives from scratch. However, their joy is interrupted when they hear the sound of the truck once again, this time rapidly approaching in the direction of the valley. Despite their renewed hopes, fear persists in their minds, reminding them of the dangers lurking in this desolate world. They decide to hide once more, watching cautiously as the truck speeds past their hiding spot. They are bewildered by the presence of military vehicles in a place they had hoped would be safe. As they watch the truck descend into the valley, they witness a heartening scene. It is warmly welcomed by the locals. And to their surprise, their friends step out of the truck, whom they had left behind along with some of the people they had seen amidst the ruins several days ago. They feel a profound relief seeing their friends unharmed and how they are warmly embraced by the inhabitants of the place. Driven by this display of hospitality, they decide to approach and introduce themselves. As they do so, they are kindly received by the local community, who offer them shelter and words of encouragement. Soon they discover that the military trucks are part of a rescue team sent to aid survivors in the area, and that the drones they had seen earlier are used to search for missing or endangered individuals, clear evidence of the goodwill and solidarity of this community. And this serves as a lesson that even in the darkest and most desolate times, hope is never completely lost. Through determination, courage, and solidarity, we can find light in the darkness and overcome even the most overwhelming challenges. Unity and mutual support are powerful tools that help us confront adversity and find a path to renewal and hope. In a world marked by devastation, the true treasure lies in the human bonds that unite us and in the ability to find beauty and goodness even in the most unexpected places.